Hello everyone, Mia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you waking up feeling pretty fueled. The moon is currently in Scorpio alongside with Mercury and with Mars, and generally in the constellation above right now there's all of this is happening in lovely water trines. Okay, Saturn is back in Pisces. Neptune is preparing to go back into Pisces today. And we have Jupiter also in Cancer. And so I do think a lot of what is going on right now, because this is all happening in like a grand trine constellation type of thing, is very much beneficial to our lives. And also with that lovely Libra new moon that we're having, I was just waiting. I was like, there is something that is brewing beneath the surface here. There's more to it. There is just more to it. And today I'm waking up and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it. This Libra new moon that we also had is the first normal new moon or any sort of moon in Libra that we had after the whole eclipse season. So basically since almost around like 2022, that's been a long time. It's been a long time. So in this way, basically, there has been a new channel, I would say, and especially because currently Venus is in her domicile, Mars is in his domicile. There is an energy in the air of really being able to actually focus on shifting the things that have been stuck in our lives. Everything that basically revolves around relationships, and I really mean that in a general way, because we can have relationships to everything and everyone, but these themes around that. When the moon is in the sign of Scorpio, it's in its fall. It's not the best position for the moon to be in. It's usually a harsher transit, and really this is happening every month, right? Every month the moon goes into Scorpio for like 2.5 days. And it's usually not the easiest time, because the fixed moon in Scorpio talks about all these emotions that are stuck, right? Like Scorpio is a fixed water sign. These are fixed emotions. What are fixed emotions? Things like grief, depression, resentment, things that are very hard to move inside of us. This time around, this is shifting. And I was feeling there's a lot of like stereotypes around Scorpio about being vengeful and seeking revenge and all of that. And obviously there's always some sort of truth that comes with stereotypes and all of that. Scorpio usually is the eye for an eye type of vengefulness, where it's like, I want somebody to feel exactly how they made me feel. I'm talking here archetypally, right? Okay, it's going to play out differently in every single person's birth chart because we are complex. But generally, Scorpio as an archetype from this type of perspective is very much like, you did this to me, I want to do the exact same thing to you. But, from a perspective of the grand scheme of things, I do think revenge is never really a good thing, at least not in that way. But I think the best revenge, and here is where we come with Mars and Mercury at play, is actually doing the things that you wanted to do but never set out to do. Is saying the things you always wanted to say but never said, and you kept quiet. That is the best revenge, because it is about you. It takes the other person out of the room and it puts you in the forefront, because it's like, what do you need to get over something or someone? And this is how we alchemize and transform and transmute these pent-up, stuck emotions like resentment, like grief, into something that is actually empowering in our lives. Maybe there was a trip you planned with somebody in your life. It never came about. How about just doing the trip yourself right now and taking that power back to yourself? It's not about being all sad and oh, and certainly there can also be emotions that are released during that time. But then again, it's empowering for you. You're taking back your power to your life by doing that. Instead of waiting till some external force comes around and saves you from it. There is no external force coming you to save from it. You have to take back your power and decide, what do I want to do to feel okay in my body? I usually, and that is very far-fetched and not everybody has to do that way, but that's how I work. Every time there are big things in my life or things that I sometimes still think about, I question myself, would I be okay being in my deathbed right now and having not done or said that? I really put myself into that situation. And if the answer is no, I'm like, well, then I'm going to do it. Or then I'm just going to say it, because what's stopping me from that? Otherwise, like, there's something in me personally that just makes me so utterly scared that I will have regretted or wasted my life or not done or said the things, just because I feel like there's so much trauma that happens for us keeping quiet or not saying or not doing things. And I really want to prevent that, to be completely honest. And so Mars, generally as a planet, is the courage to sit with the discomfort of the feelings that are freaking uncomfortable to feel and hold, but that are going to be super useful later on. And the courage is, feeling fearful and doing it anyway. That's Mars. Feeling fearful, looking fear in the eye and being like, you know what? My voice is shaking. I'm trembling, but I'm going to do it anyways. Because it's going to lead me towards where I want to be in life. And I would rather face the discomfort now, which I'm going to have to face eventually anyways in my life, if that's where I want to go. I might as well do it now than in 10 or 15 years. That is the power of Scorpio. And that is the power of Mars in domicile. And there's the power of Venus being in domicile. And also Jupiter being in exaltation. And so I feel like it's really such a powerful time today to take that as fuel. You can let these feelings work for you instead of against you right now in the cosmos. Sometimes there are periods of time where we're like, we need to sift with them and we need to carry that and we need to hold that. Right now is not that time. Right now it's time for empowerment. And really taking back our power to ourselves. And this is how we do that. Even conversations, guys, I'm telling you, it's never too late to have a conversation. Never. Never, ever. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, what if the person is deceased? You can still have that conversation. Or what if that person is ghosting me? You can still have that conversation. Maybe not with them in physical form, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is what is going to bring liberation to you. Because we're still relating to people that might not even be in our life at all. They're taking up way much room. I mean, put your hands up. Who's relating way more to a person that is not even in their lives at all right now and having any sort of intense relationship with them more than people that are present in our lives? I've been there. Hello. You can still have relationship towards that and communicate, because what matters, what is at the forefront, is the relationship in your subconscious that you have to this person. They're symbolizing something in your life that is bringing this feelings of discomfort, of fear, of grief, of resentment. You need to talk to that part. And maybe symbolically you can, turn your cushion into that person or talk to a tree. Talk to anything. You can even talk to the planets for all that I know. Talk to the moon. The moon is great to talk to about all of these types of things. The moon's great at holding, the secrets and especially now that the moon is in Scorpio. If the moon is visible, great time to do that. Because there is so much that comes up and we don't even realize it. Like when we're not talking, when it's all just in our heads, we don't realize the weight sometimes. And then when you sit down and you talk to the moon or a tree or something that is just kind of there and holding you in all of that, without any response, because that's what most of us need, right? A lot of us are scared of talking about things because we're going to get criticized. People are going to give unsolicited advice. Everyone's going to be like, oh, no, like, let's do everything to make you feel better. This is not this transit. This transit is about being in the discomfortable feelings. Feeling it, sitting with it, getting permission to be with all of that, because then you can actually let it go. If you have people around you that are immediately gonna want to fix something about that, or be like, oh, you know, that's their discomfort. That's usually, in my experience, if people are like that, and I used to be like that as well, when I was younger. I mean, I think most of us have. Where, you know, if somebody is like crying in front of you or expressing certain emotions, and you've never felt comfortable sitting alone with you and being in these feelings, then there's almost like a repulse to when somebody is actually doing that, because something in you has never allowed yourself to do that or felt okay with doing that. And once you have, like, once you've went there and you realized how powerful it is, there's almost like you can't almost judge it anymore. But there is room and space for, you know, healing alone and healing with other people. I just think a lot of these feelings that are very harsh, which is a lot of the feelings that come up when the moon is in the sign of Scorpio, they take a long time to process. And I think a lot of the healing when it comes to grief, when it comes to resentment, is not a one-time it's over thing. It's usually there's parts that I need to feel alone, isolated, with myself. Because at the end of the day, you know, you're the only person that got you. Like, the relationship you have in your head with yourself is the only relationship that's always going to be there. And again, you want to make sure, hopefully, that when you are in your deathbed, it is a good one, you know, and you're sitting there feeling like, yes, I did the things that I wanted to do, and I said the things that I wanted to do. Like, honestly, what I'm trying to tell you is really, like, I want to give you love and permission to actually, you know, do that. Because I would hate for you to actually be there and feel like you're regretting things, you know, because when you do, a lot of times when we get older and older and we realize we have less and less power and autonomy over ourselves, things get scary. And then all of these events that we haven't fully processed, they come up and bite us and turn into things like paranoia or just, you know, anger and resentment. And a lot of old people, you know, when you're at the end stages of life, there's a lot less fear of like what's going to happen, because you're like, well, I'm not going to get younger. Like, that's just my life right now. And then when the curtains start to fall, then all the things start coming out. And hopefully you want to avoid that, because we want to go towards aging gracefully. At least that's what I hope for you. That's what my Venus in Capricorn hopes for you. And how do we do that? Well, it's by doing exactly that thing and reminding ourselves that time is infinite, or finite, sorry, that at least here in the earth, in our flesh bodies, there's finite time. And I just, personally, I'm not a big fan of holding back conversations. Sometimes we need to, okay? Sometimes we need to hold back conversations. But if you're starting to hold back conversations for years that you know you should be having and it's nagging at you, that is not a good place. That is not a liberated place at all. And this is not where we want to be right now. Because you're going to be filled even with more regret if something bad happens, you know, to the other person, or they do end up not being in your life anymore and you end up not being able to physically hold that conversation anymore. Of course, if people are still physically present in your life, we want to do everything to still hold that physical conversation. But if they're not, for whatever reason, you know, they are deceased or they are simply just no contact and all of that, we can still do our best to process these things that are within us, because they are within us. I know it's very easy to put the blame on other people outside of ourselves, but realistically speaking, if somebody's having such an impact on us that is not even in our life anymore, it's coming from within, you know, it's coming from within us. And that's good news. That's amazing news, because that means we can still process it, even if there isn't actually a chance to speaking with that person. And I also want to encourage you, if that person is actually still alive, but you don't have the ways of communicating with them, like they're physically sorry, not physically, but just like they're ghosting you, or both of you are ghosting each other, try and reach out regardless. Maybe they're even going to reach out to you. I feel like that is such a transit where people are going to be surprised of people reaching out to them and maybe coming forth with certain things. If it makes you feel better, like if it makes you feel better to keep that part of your lawn clean and feels more empowering, I think that's very much worth considering. And I had that, like once. I'm very much, I don't like lying, I'm a Mercury and Sag. I'm all about truth. It's my highest priority and all of that. But there was, when I was younger, I did something which made me end up kind of lying and fabricating a lie around that. And that's like my biggest regret I had around that. And it had something to do with my ex-boyfriend. I'm laughing here because I'm like the boyfriend I had back then. I don't know if I would call it a partnership now, but back then, it was. And I really regretted that I was not being able to be truthful and honest. Like, it was eating me up alive, and I hated that. But I choose to carry that burden myself. And then years later, it was like 3 years or 4 years later, I was like, I'm still thinking about that. Like, I'm still regretting that. And I know I would regret that on my deathbed of not having spoken the truth. And while we're not specifically in contact, I was like, okay, this person still exists on Instagram. And in the meantime, we have sometimes like communicated very briefly, and then I was like, what is there to lose? Like, I can just ask them, hey, there's something I never told you back then, and I would like to talk about it to you now. Would you mind, having a FaceTime call or something like that? The biggest thing that could happen is them being like, no, I don't want to do that. And then I have my answer as well. Then you have your answer as well. I think a lot of us are scared of the answers of the people. But the biggest thing that can happen is like you just getting rejected and people being like, no, I actually don't want to have that conversation. Or just being ghosted further. And that is also liberating, even though hurtful. But at that point is like, okay, that person is willfully not reaching out to me in whatever way. I think that's important to remember. When I was going through a period in my life where I was getting ghosted by someone, which honestly is a whole video I could make because it has a lot to do with limerence. But that is not the point right now. But Neptune is moving back into Pisces, so I guess it kind of is. And these are not the same person, by the way. Sorry, I am talking a bit around the bush right now, but it's going to make sense. But she said to me, Amia, there's always a reason why somebody is not texting back. And I know that sounds very simple and obvious, but when we are in such a state, there's millions of things we are creating and fabricating and making up. And usually the harsh reality is that, there is probably a very shitty reason for that. But if you never reach out, you might never know. And I feel like it's worth taking the risk, especially if it's something that is bothering you on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And so to get back to my ex-boyfriend, well, I texted him that and he was like, okay, cool, let's do that. I was like, okay, well, it's going to be time. And I was so nervous. I was like, wow, like, I can't believe something from like 4 years ago is still so like impacting me so much. And I felt so much better after that because I was like, I kept the lawn on my side clean. I kept my garden clean. This was junk and gunk in my garden that was there and that I was not able to compost or put somewhere else. Now I was finally able to do that, and it feels so much better and refreshing and liberating. And I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to disagree with me, that are going to be like, no, actually, I feel like you should hold the burden yourself. If you did something, you shouldn't inform the other person. Like, you should live with that shame and regret and fear. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And again, personally, in that regard, I was going with the intention of like, if I'm not meant to do that, then he's going to decline. And so this is what I also want to tell all of you guys. If there is something, if there's a conversation you want to hold that feels difficult, come with that intention to the conversation. Be very like, this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to get rid of. Dear divinity, dear cosmos, if for whatever reason it is not the time and place to hold this conversation, or I need to process things on my own, let us not have that conversation right now, or make the person reject me again or whatever. And then you're also going to have an answer. That's the weird beauty of all of that. You're still going to have an answer. Not answering is an answer as well. But you're never going to figure out if you do not take that steps, and if you're not courageous and bold enough in the first place. And then the second liberating part, again, which you can literally just do on your own, is the actions you can take. If you're somebody that is constantly waiting on somebody to do something so you can finally begin to write that song, or finally start applying to that job, or finally start doing that creative project. No. You're starting it this week. You're doing it right now. There's no reason for you to wait for that person to do something, to apologize, to say something, for you to keep off of your creative projects or whatever you want to do in life, or the trip that you want to take. Do it alone, do it bold, do it courageously. That is the Martian part about all of this. Basically using our words and putting them into action to then liberate ourselves from the fears of shame, of grief, of resentment. And this is what I have for you guys. Totally channeled video. This is how I woke up today, and I'm impacted by this too. I could have easily just been like, I'm gonna go out about my day, like it's not the right time. I should probably eat right now. I was like, no, this needs to be birthed outside of my body right now, and I need to do it right now because I feel like somebody out there might profit from that. And I'm not gonna wait anymore. So I'm just as much in the trenches with you, okay? So this is what I have to say. I wish you a lovely time, and we're gonna see each other soon. Bye.